already did Instagram and
Let's see. I'll
looks like we're
refresh. I'm
live.
pretty sure we're good. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, we're good. Perfect. Alrighty, Dan. Thanks for coming on the stream, man. It's been a long time coming.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. Always happy to talk Pokemon when and wherever.
I guess there's gonna be a lot of people watching this who know who you are, but probably a lot of people who don't. And I think that's maybe a good thing and a bad thing, but I guess kind of like the elevator pitch to people tuning in. What context do they need to know about you to kind of decide whether or not they should listen to this, bearded man who knows a little bit about Pokemon?
Bearded balding man. I've been back into Pokemon 12 years. I got back in 2014. I've been full-time since 2021. I quit my engineering job to sling Pokemon cards. I've done a little bit of everything in the space. I've streamed. I've flipped on eBay. I've graded with all the major grading companies. I have distro. I've had distro for 12 years. I've kind of been around and seen and done a lot. Last year, I sold between all the various platforms 9.3 million in total sales, mostly on Fanatics Live, eBay Live, and shout out to all the guys actually doing like the fulfillment for that. It's not all me. I actually don't do any of it. So I'm like I'm the capital and the sourcing behind the operation primarily. And what we sell mostly is just packs on live streams. And then we do some auctions and we do some higher end things. But that's kind of like the main bit of what I do. And yeah, I do Q&As and stuff on YouTube every week lately because we're booming. And usually it's every other week. But lately I've been dialing it up because the market's dialing everything up. So I figured I should match.
The first comment to come into from Zuko, Dan's got the red light on.
That's actually orange. So my camera's kind of low, but that's blue and orange. That's my standard catch 'em all collectibles color. But I do have the ability to turn the lights red. We'll see how the night goes. We'll see where we go.
I'll try not to ask anything too provocative during this live. Yeah. By the way, we'll take a couple of these too. So we have Why Do I Need a Channel is in here. Thank you for stopping by. Cruz is in here. You actually don't need a channel, but always good to have a channel. Tennis Wolf is in here too. Hey, I know that guy. We booming or what?
We are booming indeed, yes.
Jay Vern's in here as well. Dan the Bull. I'm sure we'll get into that
I'm
too.
A goat. I'm a bear. I'm a little bit of everything, depending on who you ask, depending on the day.
Did he say 9.3 million in sales?
Yeah, so 9.3 million. And let me contextualize that too. So again, that's not me packaging and shipping every order. That's I don't do any business to consumer. I basically have 5 main independent contractors. I've got PK and Ponga over on Fanatics Live. And then I've got Spat, Grimer, and Biersky over on eBay Live. Those 3 sell their own things. They do singles, they do slabs, and their GMV, I basically pass it through. I give them access to the eBay Live platform. I give them access to the better fees that I have, and I take a very small cut. Same thing goes for my consignment operation. My consignment operation, I run through Fanatics. I'll take your slabs in. I'll auction them off on Fanatics. I retain a very small cut. So like a close friend in the space, ZNG Emporium, he does 49 million in sales annually, but he has multiple employees. He's selling other people's cards. So my 9.3 million, the majority of that is other people's stuff, but multiple millions, still my own inventory through PK, through Ponga, still my own inventory through Fanatics. And I do a little bit of everything. I'm all over the place, but primarily on Fanatics is where we live.
It's funny you bring up ZNG too. I'm sure we'll talk about him a little bit in this, but one of my first questions I was going to ask you, because you've been around for so long, and it feels to me like in the PokeTube investing market space now, there are some old heads for sure, but there are a lot of new people. And I don't know if you agree with this or not. I feel like it's very important to listen to people who have been around a long time because they have a much different perspective on things than people who got in 2020 or 2023 like myself. I know you mentioned PK, ZNG. Is there anyone else that you feel new people in the hobby should listen to that they probably never heard of before? Maybe someone who doesn't post anymore or very infrequently does so?
Oh, there's so many. Man, I always feel bad like listing off names because there's gonna be people when I think back later, it's like, oh man, I should have said these 10 people. But it blows my mind. Like I've been here since 2014. When I was coming up, like the YouTube space was SM Pratt. He doesn't post public videos anymore. He has a Patreon. He does private videos occasionally. I think every couple of years he'll feel the need to drop a public video. But Jake Pokenomics, I'm partnered with him on my Patreon. Nick Old School Pokemon, he recently restarted up his YouTube. We've had a podcast going for 5 years now since my entry into the YouTube space. My first YouTube video was a podcast with Old School Pokemon. Then you've got TCA Gaming Rusty. It blows my mind. Somebody like he predated me. He had been here several years in 2014 when I got back in. He's been full time for since before I got back in, like part time on the side. One of the biggest collections in the space. Gem Mint Pokemon Zach, him there as well. He's made content on YouTube off and on, but he's another full timer doing big things in the space, very well connected. And a lot of these guys, like, they've seen everything. They've seen the booms, they've seen the busts, they've been through it all. And props to like specifically Zach and Rusty more so than me. I paper handed a lot of my former collection. I still have what I think would be a reasonable collection, but Rusty, Zach, you're talking 7-figure, 8-figure collections. They recently had that. I don't know if you saw, actually over near you. I think. Did you go to that?
Yeah, I
The
didn't. I know what you're talking about
okay,
though.
but yeah,
The
the
Hall of Fame, right?
TCG Hall of Fame
Hmm.
Collectopia or something.
Collectopia. Hmm.
Yeah. That they Rusty and Zach were two of the inaugural inductees. Actually, Gary King Pokemon, he was like go all the way back. Him and Kenny Golden over on Home Shopping Network, grading the CD promo Charizards, grading the Neo Premium file cards and pumping them like mad on they were like the original live streamers. Ken Golden, some of those old 1999 videos where he's pumping up the Neo Premium file cards. It's pretty wild to listen back to those.
It's interesting to hear you say that you paper handed some of your collection, because I watched your video today, and I mean, I want to go too deep into how to make money in this hobby because your video is coming out next week, and I think that'll be a really good video. But at the same time, you're saying you paper handed today in your video, it also seemed like you're kind of alluding to the fact that, you know, if you would have sold your collection earlier and flipped that money over and over and over again, you probably would have got to a much further spot than you are now, or at least faster than you have. So
Mhm.
do you really feel that bad about selling your collection?
Oh no, not at all. For me, like one thing I'm big on is we only have the information we have at the time. You can't know. Like I think a lot of people, it's scary in the YouTube space, the amount of guarantees, the amount of certainty, the high degree of confidence in things that people just have no control over, no idea over. And in hindsight, too, a lot of the things I sold back in 2020, 2021, they were at all-time highs then. Some of them I sold a little bit early. They doubled, they quadrupled after I sold them, only weeks or only months later. Some people in chat right now, let us know in chat if you sold something 2 months ago, 4 months ago, that's now 2x, 5x, 10x what it was. I definitely did that too. But simultaneously, I sold some things back then that are 50% lower today than they were then. And I sold some things that were 50%, 80% drops, and some of them came back and some of them never did. I used to own some of the rarest cards I used to own, actually. I owned like trophy Pikachu cards, the ones that are awarded to the winners of Worlds, video game, TCG. And I rebought some of those recently in that golden Illustrator block with Logan Paul's Illustrator. I bought back trophy cards that I sold 5 years ago for half of what I sold them for 5 years ago. So talk about opportunity cost. Having had all that capital for those 5 years, being full time, growing my business, churning it over and over and over, and then all said and done, 5 years later, buying them back for half price. Sold a card for 70,000 that I recently rebought for 35, 36, whatever it was.
You mention a lot of the time, very often, that you're I'm gonna butcher this. How do you say it? You're short
Plastic.
long cardboard.
Yeah. Yep.
For someone who's doing $9.3 million a year in sales and you're kind of seeing it all, can you explain why you're so bullish on the sealed product long term, but the graded cards you're less interested in?
And I think a lot of people have misinterpreted it. They've misquoted it. They've misinterpreted it different ways. When I say cardboard, I don't only mean the sealed product. I do primarily mean the sealed product, but I also just mean like the cardboard, the card themselves. I very bullish on just the underlying cards themselves. We probably will get into it later, but the whole short plastic side, third party opinions, ABC, XYZ, PSA, BGS, CGC, all these alphabet soup acronyms. I appreciate and understand as a business in the space the value that third party graders provide, but I think we take something that provides some amount of value and some amount of like, hey, there should be some premium to a 10, to a black label, to a pristine. But I personally, for all of my 12 years in the space, I think we've taken it way too far. I like the market has just always valued the third party opinion higher than I have personally. And that's fine. Like one thing I say is like don't fight it. It's just hey, if the market values something more than you do, sell it to them. And if the market values something less than you do, buy it from them. And then the long cardboard side, going back 1999 when it all came out, I love Pokemon. I know so many people, all the people in the space. I know so many people that just love the universe. They love the sitting cuties, or they love the cards, or they love the video games, whatever it is. My wife's a teacher. Every year, she's got more and more kids that are into it. You go like talk about sports cards, talk about coins, talk about beer steins, some of the other things I collect. They don't have that multi-generational facet to it. Some of them quite literally beer stein collecting, things like that, literally like a dying hobby. 10, 20, 30 years, once the average 75-year-old collector passes on, like there just won't be enough consumers to take over. But in Pokemon, it's not that way at all. You've got the grandpas in the space, right? You got your Gary King Pokemon. You've got guys like him all the way up into the 70s, or and then all the way down to my kids both love it. My kids both love it. So I very bullish, very long on cardboard. I quit my job to do it full time. Over half my net worth is in Pokemon. But generally speaking, I try to not keep too much percentage wise into slabs themselves. Grading raw into slabs, selling for a premium, increasing the liquidity, absolutely great business. But like long-term speculation, I don't really play in that. Clearly, the last few months, if you're in vintage stuff, if you're in some different modern stuff, gray felt hat, one of those above me. I mean, sometimes graded cards can have crazy, crazy price movements. But I just don't keep like a long-term speculation or investment type play in plastic primarily.
You said you had over 50% of your net worth in Pokemon, which, knowing that, I'm sure it drives you crazy when people call you a bear in the space.
Yeah.
You're probably one of the most outspoken people in the space, though, talking about investing in your 401k, your Roth IRA, all these other buckets you call them. Do you feel comfortable having 50% of your net worth? He's bringing it up on screen there.
Yeah.
Do you feel comfortable having 50% of your net worth in cardboard?
Absolutely. Basically, so if anyone's familiar with the personal finance subreddit, I don't really post there. I'm not like heavily involved there, but this is like one of the personal income spending flowcharts, saving up an emergency fund, paying off credit cards, all that stuff. But part of the reason that I'm so comfortable, and I'm uncomfortable many days during a boom like this. It's kind of uncomfortable. It's like I should just sell everything and I should ride off into the sunset. But I'm comfortable because of my foundation. I'm comfortable because I have all that underlying stuff. And one thing that I say all the time, and I think some people don't believe it, some people don't agree with it, and that's entirely fine. This is just my opinion. But like 50 years ago, people were eating McDonald's burgers. They were drinking Coca-Cola. I say 20 years ago, Lowe's and Home Depot and McCormick Spices and like Procter and Gamble household goods and things of that nature. I'm 99% confident over the next 50 years of my life, hopefully longer than that. I'm as confident as I can be that people will be eating Big Macs and go renovating their house, buying from Lowe's and all these different companies in the S&P 500 specifically. I'm 99% confident that multi hundreds, tens of trillions, hundreds of trillions of dollars, I'm more confident that like that isn't going to be shaken to its core, isn't going to reverse course on what it's done over the past 50, 100 years. So having my foundation there, having all that forecasted out, if people are familiar with like the financial independence movement, the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, I'm not really interested in the latter half of that, but the financial independence, Bill Bengen, the Trinity study, the 4% rule, I very much ascribe to all that. And I've got kids, and just knowing that like if all this were to go to zero tomorrow, which it can't tomorrow, but like 20, 30 years from now, Pokemon could just go away. I don't think it will, but it theoretically could, in a way that all these like S&P 500 companies won't. So once I have that core there, once I have my 401ks maxed, my IRAs maxed, I've forecasted out whether you want to take 5%, 7%, whatever real returns you want to forecast out. I'm what they call coast fire. I could literally not put another penny into my retirement accounts. And when I turn 60, 65, I will have enough money built up in my traditional investments that like I'm set. I can retire on that, live good for the rest of my life. So now that that's done, it's like now it's time to play. And if people are familiar, and I know you're in Canada, I'm in the United States, so like very country by country and situation by situation. But in the United States, like you can only save 23,500 or 24,500 this year into a 401k. And then my wife, she's the vice president of the company as well, so she's maxing out hers too. But it's only 60 or 70 grand to fill all my buckets. And I used to make 80 grand a year as an engineer. I haven't mentioned exactly how much I make net profit on that 9.3 million in total sales, but I'm doing well. So when people call me bearish, it's like I only put 70 grand in the buckets, and every penny otherwise goes into Pokemon. So it's like much more money going into Pokemon. And not all as investments. Some is investments. Some is just like regular business, operational, cash flow, all that stuff. But I'm very bullish. I'm very risk on. I think one place I lose a lot of people too, and it's kind of scary to be quite honest. I say that Destined Rivals booster boxes could go below 200 again. They could go below MSRP. I say that Prismatic, what is Prismatic? A 14-month-old set. Prismatic ETBs, I know. What are they? 150, 180, 200, whatever the hell they are. They could go under MSRP. Every day that passes and they don't, it makes it that much less likely that they will. But nobody has any control over that. And pause yourself. Anyone in chat who's going to say this guy, he doesn't know anything. What? I was here 5 years ago when people guaranteed to me that Vivid Voltage wouldn't go below 200 ever again. And then you know what it did? It went below 100. It went below half of what they said it couldn't go below. And it stayed there for 4 years. And I know it's different. It was different in 2021 too. Like there's always all these things. But at the end of the day, like my chips are on the table. And I'm showing everyone my hand. I'm showing everyone my cards. Like my palettes are all out there. I'm very transparent. And place your bets, know the risks. I'm having a blast. I hope everyone else is too. And I just don't want to see people get hurt. I saw people get hurt in 2021 with their irrational exuberance. Some people inevitably will get hurt this time too. I hope it's as few people as possible, and I hope nobody is like on account of what I said or them blindly following what I say and do.
I think I get it because I think everything has a level of nuance to it, and a lot of people on the internet forget that. So when you say something could happen, everyone just jumps to you automatically assuming that it's going to happen, right? Which isn't the case. Yeah. I guess with Destined Rivals, it's an interesting conversation. And maybe just to push back a little bit, you know, when you say it could, I assume that you mean that's a very low percentage probability, or are you looking at it as something that's maybe like an 80-20% probability? Like how do you view it?
So there's two distinct things, and I think this is where a lot of it gets muddy too. And I contribute to it. So I'll do a 3-hour live stream. I'll provide all the nuance. I'll provide all the context. And then I plug my live stream into Opus and I make a short from it. So there will be 20 minutes of context here and 2 minutes more of context here. And I'll pull out like a 45-second kind of a fiery clip, right? Because that's what gets clicks, that's what gets views. So I kind of do it to myself too, to be honest. But I've been saying for the past year, well, not quite a year because it's not quite a year old. Destin Rivals is not even a year old. That's crazy. Yeah, my dad has more Destin Rivals than your dad. That's one meme that came up during a red light segment at one point, I think. But one thing that I've been saying for over a year now on Prismatic and for 10 months on Destin, I am very confident, less confident than I was back when I said it because so much time has elapsed and it hasn't come true yet, right? But I was saying a year ago, 10 months ago with Destin and with Prismatic, I was saying that I think there's a 90% chance the packs. So one thing that I know, again, I've been here 12 years. There was 2-year periods where ETBs never got reprinted and ETBs were the investing gold standard until they weren't, because then there was another 2-year period where all they reprinted were ETBs and they never reprinted the booster boxes. So I've lived through 12 different years, 12 different seasons, 12 different chapters of like what is guaranteed to happen. What happens? Like right now, you look around, you ask anybody, they're not reprinting booster boxes. Someday, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're going to start reprinting booster boxes again someday. Maybe they need that 1 million square feet to come up online. Maybe they're waiting for something else, but I don't know. The one thing I do know, though, the one thing that I'm extremely confident in, right now they're printing 12 billion cards a year. Japanese, English, Chinese, energy cards, all the things that people always say. But I'm confident that if there's a business case for Pokemon printing Pokemon card packs, they will print the packs. To Pokemon, to the higher-ups there, like to the printers themselves, they print packs. What configuration they ultimately put the packs into, a UPC, a Sea and Skybox, an SPC, an ETB, a booster box, I have no knowledge, no control over what SKU they put in ultimately. I've lived through 12 years of them loving ETB reprints, of them loving booster box reprints. So for the past 10 months to a year, I've been saying I am as confident as I can be the packs will be available under MSRP. And so far I've been wrong. But you know what? Like I was saying that originally a year ago when Prismatic was $11 a pack I was paying. 11, 12 bucks a pack I was paying when market was 14. And you said, you know what, guys? I'm buying what I need for the live streams. I'm running a multi-million-dollar live stream operation. We need to have packs for the buyers that want them. But I'm not going to buy any extra until they get cheaper. And what I do is like, if the price is 11, I want a few thousand. I want what I need. I want to be like hand to mouth with the packs. Well, the price got down to 6. I think the lowest I paid over the summer, late summer maybe, I want to say market was like 8, and I was paying like $675. I bought like 10,000 packs at $675. Well, Dan, you said MSRP was coming, and you said like yes, but I know that I think it will. I think it's more likely than not that it will. But I'm also hedging my bets. I'm always like, I bought 10,000 at 675, and then if and when it got down to 550, I would have bought another thousands more. And like Crown Zenith was a good example. Crown Zenith, it's insane to say this. People won't believe it, but go back and look. 15 months ago, you could buy Crown Zenith for $4 a pack. It was at MSRP. It was actually way under MSRP if you went to Costco and just bought the Sea and Sky boxes for like, maybe somebody in chat can help me here if somebody broke down a bunch of, but I want to say people were getting Crown in the US for under $3 a pack. And they were flipping it to me for $3.50, $3.75, $4 a pack. So I'm open to being wrong. That's my thing. I'm always open to being wrong, but I always say like, I think it'll be the packs, and it might just be poster collections. It might be ETBs. It might be booster boxes, but I have no way of knowing that, and I'm not going to pretend to. And by no means, I've never guaranteed it will go under MSRP, but there's a lot of people on the other side that have guaranteed that it will, that have no knowledge, no control, like no say in that. 5 years ago, if they were here, they would have guaranteed Vivid Voltage wouldn't go under MSRP, and they would have been wrong. A lot of people did. And at the end of the day, like nobody cares. YouTube has a very short attention span. It forgets, it forgives, I guess. But I just, as I said earlier, people will lose money. People will be hurt financially. And I don't want to contribute to that in a negative way.
Fair enough. This is actually a good question to ask right now, based on that, from Sage. Has the market changed fundamentally?
In 2020, I feel like socially Pokemon was different, or is it just the money? There's definitely, like 2014 to 2019, I look back with so much nostalgia. It was so much more real and pure and true collectors, and it wasn't like as muddied up with all this investing talk and all this money. And I say this ironically as a business operating at a high level, taking a lot of money out of the space, but it felt more pure. It felt more true, as some people get a kick out of me saying that. But I really feel that way. That was also peak collector boy Dan years. I bought as like a collection goal. I bought and opened every English booster box, any box you can think of. Yes, base set first edition English was the only one that I didn't open. I opened base set first edition in every language beside English. The most I paid for any box, I think I paid 3,200 for Skyridge, around 3,000 for Neo Destiny first edition. I opened EX Team Rocket Returns, EX Deoxys for about 1,000 or under 1,000. Obviously, we've fundamentally changed in a way where it's way bigger. One thing that I like in it too, it's kind of a meme. Like we used to like back in 2014, we used to like this little indie rock band or this indie band or whatever. We used to go to the local venue. We used to pay $5 and we'd get in and we'd watch like our indie band play all of our favorite hits and all that stuff. Well, they got popular and then they started going like out of county. They went across the state and then they went across the whole coast and then they went across the country. Well, now they are global phenoms and you can't pay $5 to get to the concert anymore. Everyone knows them, everyone's into them, and the price of admission has gone up substantially. It doesn't feel amazing in a lot of ways, but it is what it is. And just like I'm not super like tapped into the whole pop culture space and zeitgeist, but there are probably certain musicians that would fit this conversation that I'm going on that 10, 15 years later kind of fall out of favor. They go to the wayside and I think Pokemon could come back around. I think on a long enough timeline, we will get Pokemon under MSRP again. To me, it's not a question of if, but when. But pegging that specifically to Prismatic or to Destined, I won't do that. But if I had to say one way or the other, will Pokemon ever be under MSRP again in the next 10 years? Absolutely. Like they will, one of multiple ways it'll happen. But MSRP will just climb every other year between now and then. Distros will charge more. Like they'll get it there somehow, even if MSRP has to go up to 300 a box or whatever. But they won't leave all this money on the table forever.
I think that's probably, I mean, you explained it really well. I think that would be kind of like a lot of people's pushback about your claim of things getting like Prismatic getting MSRP Destined. It's just the fact that right now, the time we're in, there's so many people in this hobby. Do you kind of feel sometimes that maybe your price memory or just being in the hobby in 2014, 2015, do you think that skews kind of your view of some of the newer sets at all?
There's definitely a risk. And part of like my whole palette experiment that I have, I've spent since I got back into the hobby, 2014, I was getting Phantom Forces at distro. I was getting like Flashfire Remnants were there. I was getting Primal Clash, Roaring Skies, Breakpoint, Breakthrough. I always had a mind, and so many people in the space say it all the time. Oh, I'm gonna hold this for 5 years. I'm gonna hold this for 10 years. That was always my idea when I set something back. When I set a case back, a box back, whatever. My timeline was always like 10 years, and then I'd set like price targets. It's like, hey, if I could double my money in a few years, 5 years, if I could 5x my money in 10, 15 years, like that's amazing. That destroys the S&P 500, all the traditional stuff. I'd be thrilled with it. And then what happened was my things would 5x in 2 years or 3 years or something, right? Like all the gains that I expected over a decade were happening in months or years instead of a full decade. So I always sold it all. So part of me intentionally making myself be more diamond hands with certain things is I'm like moving them off site. I'm pelletizing them. I'm wrapping them up, getting them set back. I'm time capsuling them until 2030. So I'm very aware that like I could be wrong on all this. And again, it's all percentages to me. It's all percentages at the end of the day. And I'll never put 100%. I'll never put a 0% on anything. 12 years ago when I started, Whatnot wasn't a thing. Fanatics Live, eBay Live, just last year, 9.3 million in sales. That is my first several years altogether added together and then multiplied like multiple times. Like that's so much more than I did. And I'm one guy. I'm one relatively small operation. I know so many people doing high 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures. It's crazy. And we opened 180,000 packs last year. 180,000 packs. Doing the numbers, 12 billion cards a year. And I don't remember all the numbers off the top of my head, but I've played around in spreadsheets before. And it's like, what percentage of the likely English distro print run has just my operation ripped? And it's not like it's like 2% or 5%. It's like point whatever percent or 0.0 whatever percent. But that's still like mind blowing because I know so many operations that are my size and do the math in the pop reports. Moonbryon, Sunbryon, 1 in 1,000, 1 in 2,000 pull rates, tens of thousands in the pop. It's like you can do the math on how many millions of packs, millions and millions of packs of each set are being opened. It's crazy. And biggest thing I always come back to is like, I know that I don't know. And when I see somebody that's been here for less than 12 months, they've only known the boom. They've only known from like prismatic evolutions onward. It's just scary. When they've known 12 months and they forecast for 50 years. 1999 to 2001, 1999 to 2002, those years were booming. And then Pokemon fell out of favor, whatever. And I think it's inevitable at some point that Pokemon will slow down to some extent. And for some people to so emotionally and viciously fight back against like never under MSRP again, that to me is just like lunacy over a long enough timeline.
I'll push back one more thing and then we'll move on. And again, I'm doing this from a position of goodwill because I actually agree with you on a lot of stuff. I like the idea of the pallets, and we can talk more about that too if you want. And you said, just explain it there, that's kind of you almost hedging against your tendency to sell stuff early, right? You want to hold stuff back,
right?
Your bearishness. Correct. At the same time, I remember asking you a question on a live stream probably a couple months back about Destined Rivals, and at what point would it have to be? I think it was, I can't remember exactly how I phrased it. Maybe middle of this year or late this year. If it was like $300, would you buy some or something? On the one side, you're holding stuff back because you want to make sure you're holding it long enough. But I think your response to me then was that you're not buying any right now. And a lot of it was based on your opinion of where you see things going. Do you feel that that's maybe a bit of a blind spot, that you're not also buying right now at like a consistent time frame to be kind of on like the other side of being like too bearish per se?
So there's two things. Like if somebody offers me a collection, I do buy lists every Monday, and I buy certain things at 80, 85, 90%, depending on what they are, certain things for the stream, certain things. But I've bought Destined Rivals cases in the past few months, but they've specifically been like, I'm buying them at 80% as part of a larger collection, and I just immediately flip. I'm not adding any new ones at the current prices to the pallets. So like, I'll never turn down out of stubbornness. I'll never turn down out of price memory the ability to buy at a low percentage, buy wholesale, sell retail. I will always do that.
That seems a bit of a cop out though, because you can flip it instantly. It's free money, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of putting something away as an investment.
And this is one thing that I when I made the original pallet video number 1 that I made in May of 2024, I said at the time that hey, this is a little bit of Sword and Shield, but it's mostly Scarlet and Violet. And in what I said, why I said it was mostly Scarlet and Violet is because I said I don't like to look back. I don't like to chase. If I got out of something and its price has gone up, generally speaking, historically, my price memory, my 12-year history, I have generally been like, I'm done. My XY chapter is over unless I'm going to buy and sell for margin. My Sun and Moon era is largely over unless I'm going to buy and sell for margin. But one thing that I kind of changed, I got over my stubbornness. I realized that we're in different times. When the new video comes out in a couple months in May, I'm going to detail what went on pallet 4. You know what went on pallet 4? A lot of early SV that I kind of like missed out on. Sword Shield that I kind of missed out on. And you know why? Because I would much rather put, and again, like I've had some good back and forth debates on this. And I know Alex, Nostalgianomics, recently made a video where he thinks like SV is going to outperform a lot of Sword Shield. I think it's an interesting take, and he has his own data and reasons as to why. It's what makes it interesting that all of us can be in the same market, look at the same data, and take away very different opinions and thoughts on the future price movement and stuff. But yeah, Palette 4 is mostly Sword and Shield. In my mind, what I intended for it to be, what I planned for it to be, hey, when Destined Rivals comes out, I'm going to put 20 cases on because the boxes are going to be 120, 130 bucks a box, and I'm going to get them wholesale for 95 bucks a box, and that's historically what I've done. But the rules have changed, so I've definitely and you could argue, well, Dan, you haven't changed enough with the times, and I think all that's fair. That's again everyone's opinion, but yeah, I've changed my rules. I've broken my rules to some extent. And one thing I'll say too that people might not fully understand, but I think it makes perfect sense. I would be happier to add 10 cases of Destined Rivals to my pallets in 5 years at 600 bucks a box or even $1,000 a box, buying them at 80% of market, knowing that like the reprints are done, that time has passed, and it's a real price. It's been real all along. I was a little bit too bearish in that 2025, 2026 timeframe, right? I would rather buy it then when it's real, when I know it's locked in, when it's good, because you know what I've been buying over the past year that I haven't been buying Destined? I was buying Crown for $3.54 a pack. I guess that was instead of Prismatic because that was in like January. That's 4 months before Destined came out. But I was buying last summer, actually post Destined. I was buying 151 for $9 a pack. On the market, it was probably 11, 12, whatever, 10, 11, 12. I bought 10,000 plus packs of 151 at $9 a pack. So my big thesis, my big thing is like, you guys might be right. The market might be right, whatever. I might miss out on Destined, but I'm going to miss into things that will do well in that future where Destined does well, in my opinion. At the end of the day, it's all numbers on a spreadsheet to me. I want to have a little bit of it. I want to have skin in the game. I have my 4 cases set back because I don't know what's going to happen. But I want the biggest number possible, and I don't think Destined will deliver that to me. I'm open to being wrong. I have my thesis. I put my money backing my thesis, and everyone should do the same for them too. Listen to what I say. Listen to what Alex says. Listen to what Pokey Prophet says. Listen to what everyone says. Like, take in all the information, look at all the data that's there, and then make your own determination and go for it. I think too many people get wrapped up in what people are saying. They pick teams, they pick sides, and they just go all in on other people's recommendation, other people's advice, and don't really do their own due diligence. And I think that's where it gets dangerous and scary.
You've always said too, we'll take a couple super chats here in a second. You've always said too, you're never going to be the best investor, and you don't want to be either, right? It's kind of just and I feel the same way. It's I'm not going to hit everything. I missed on Destined as well. But I think, at least for myself, I can only speak for myself, knowing where I'm at now, as long as I just keep down this path for the next decades, I'm probably going to be in a place where I'm happy with what I have. And I think that's ultimately, all I'm aiming for, right? Is just my end goal, $1 million. I mean, that's the goal right now, invested. I think that'd be fun over the next decade, but I'm not trying to be the best. So
no, I'm actually exceedingly confident. I can guarantee you the way that I'm set up, I will not be the very best, like no one ever was. I am generally targeting relatively mediocre. I'm very much people overestimate what they can do in the short term and underestimate what they can do in the long term. Take that with investing and the effects of compounding. I have my buckets. I have my foundation built in the traditional boring stuff. I am 99% confident that I will be a multimillionaire in retirement with the real traditional, old, boring, crusty things that no one wants to talk about. So once I have that, well, now I'm playing in my pallets. I'm playing in the cardboard space. And, but again, I'm not going to go all in on one set. I'm not going to be a set picker. I'm not going to go all in on one. I set pick to an extent. I go a little bit heavier allocations towards certain sets that I like better. Your Crown, your 151, things like that. And it's treated me well. But I'm fine missing out. Collector Dan in the past too. I've always I tap out at some point. You've got to set a limit at some point. And I think some people kind of refuse to do that. And there's just every year there's 6 new sets. I'm going to have a piece of all of them, but maybe I won't quite get all I want of all of them. And the same way that, okay, I missed a double up on Destined. In the past 12 months, in the past 10 months, as crazy it is to say this, is 2x even good? Is anyone happy with themselves only 2xing their money? What are we talking about here, right? I'm a triple almost on my 151, and that's such a dangerous, scary thing to say, and I'm mostly memeing. But like it is crazy. It is crazy that the average thing that I hold has probably been there or slightly higher, if
Mhm.
not fairly significantly higher. It's crazy. Yeah, but and as Sage asked here on the question that's on the screen, it has definitely changed, and I think I agree and realize that it's changed too. It's all just like the extent to which it has changed. Do I think we have changed to the extent that we will never go under MSRP again for any set ever? No, I can't get on board with that. But am I open to being wrong? And there will be, for the first time in Pokemon's 30-year history, there will be boxes that never go under MSRP. Let alone that, there's actually, not only has there never been a box pre-surging Sparks that never went under MSRP, there's never been a box in the past 30 years that hasn't gone under 100. So like this is unprecedented. But simultaneously, there's never been a time where every box in the market was above 250. So we're already setting history. It's just a matter of like how much more history will we set before things come back to some new normal, like whatever we want to say. Yeah, I don't know. But it's a fun ride either way.
Ray, Shining Cards and Collectibles gifted 20 memberships. Thank you, man. Thank you for stopping by. Guys, make sure to thank Shining Cards and Collectibles if you got a membership. That's awesome. I normally don't promote the memberships too much because I have a couple emojis. One of which is I did a prismatic ETB and I slapped an MSRP sticker on it.
Oh,
I
nice.
thought that was really cool. I'm gonna do one of those for Ascended too here in a couple months. Steve F, thank you for the super chat as well. What do you both think Dan making greater than 10x more with Pokemon than engineering says about the future of Western society, Pokemon being a bubble?
It definitely could be. I think it's scary that some people think that there's no shot all this stuff goes away. And I think, especially when you're looking at graded cards right now, mentioning James earlier, his Instagram every Sunday is just flooded with like new record, new record, new record. One thing that I've been saying with extreme confidence, I can't pick the top, but I can tell you that there, like, whenever the top happens, and the top is going to happen at different times for different cards, different items. But last time in 2020, there were cards that fell from 1,000 to 200. There were cards that fell from 1,000 to 500. There were cards that fell from 8,000 to 1,000. I think there will be again. But the biggest question that I don't know the answer to, and no one knows the answer to, is the $1,000 card that's going to fall down to 500. Is it 1,000 today, and it's going to drop 50% from today's comp? Or is the $1,000 card that's going to fall down to 500, is it only 250 today? Is it going to 4x before the top? The top might be 3 months, 6 months. The top might be 3 years away. No one knows. No one knows. I would think sooner than that, honestly, rather than later. But no one knows. And the card that's 250 today, the card that's 2,500 today, could 4x and then drop 20% and then drop 50%. And if you're good at the mental math, like 250 up to 1,000 and then dropping 50%, that's a double from today's price. Like that could be a thing. And depending on the time frames, depending on the card, depending on what you pick, that's exactly what happened back in 2021. There's a lot of money to be made in a bubble, in a whatever you want to call it, in those last few weeks, last few months. And it's all risk tolerance. What have I been doing personally the last few months? Being an absolute degenerate. I went into the end of the year with like 6 figures worth of sealed, with 6 figures worth of slabs that I specifically bought like on risk. I'm specifically doing a momentum play into the 30th, and some of the gold stars I bought for $5,000 I sold for 10 grand, 12 grand, 15 grand the last couple of weeks. Some of the ones I bought for 10 grand I sold for 20. Like but I'm sure like it worked, and I was rewarded. I'm doing it again right now actively. I'm deploying a bunch of capital. I'm going to sell it in 2 weeks, 2 months, and I keep coming back to the table with more and more chips, and at some point I'm probably going to get burned a little bit. I'm probably going to hit a little bit too hard for a little bit too long, but I'm doing it knowing the risks. I'm doing it consciously weighing the math, and I always meme on like when you put 10 grand into something, you can only lose 100% of your investment, right? As long as you're not playing with leverage or margin or whatever, or shorting things, or But 10 grand can turn into 100. 10 grand can turn into a million. Like the asymmetric upside of investing inherently, as long as you're not doing it with margin, is very tantalizing. All this said by someone who's very bearish on the space. Don't forget.
The biggest bear in the space that has
Yeah.
50% invested of his net worth. Look, I'll approach it from a different perspective. And again, this is, my take as someone who hasn't been in the space very long, but I look at how Pokemon kind of, and TCGs in general kind of fit into what's going on in the world. And to me, I feel like my whole kind of adult career, I've made a hedge against like the West in general. And I don't want to get political with this, but I think that at least Canada is definitely going downhill, and it's getting incredibly expensive to buy homes, to buy like anything in general, right? So you're going to have a lot of people that get upset, and they're going to find some outlet for that. And, some people that might be, just getting into degenerate gambling, right? And Pokemon is degenerate gambling, or collecting, whether people are opening packs or just collecting cards. It's the whole thing too. Like, people are moving away from having kids. You see people with pets now. Some people might not have pets. It's going to be a PSA 10 Pikachu Gold Star, right? That people buy to give them some level of happiness. So that's a very superficial look at how I view what's going on, but it does make sense to me why physical goods and collectibles are incredibly popular right now.
Yeah, and one thing I said too, just looping back in to tie in something I said earlier, I believe in the S&P 500 over like a 50-year time frame, outliving me, all that stuff. The same way that I said though that like the world could live without Pokemon. The world would have to fundamentally change for the S&P 500 to break from its historical trends. So much is built on that. You can say it's all a Ponzi scheme. It kind of is in some ways. Fiat currency. Like I understand that. I know all those arguments, but the same way the other side. So that was the bearish Dan take. The bullish Dan take is that if you look at Pokemon, and I haven't made this video yet, but I'm going to have to at some point. If someone steals it, just shout me out. So they print 12 billion cards a year, right? They publicly post that number. And we know some of it's Japanese, some of it's Chinese. But say it all went into English booster packs. There's 10 cards per pack. That's 1.2 billion packs. MSRP of a booster pack is $5. There's only $6 billion worth of new Pokemon printed every year. And we know that's a very high estimate because that's the retail price. And these things are sold wholesale to distro. They're sold wholesale to Walmart, to Target, all that stuff. So there's only a couple $1 billion tops of new print coming in. Now add PSA, add the fact that they're grading booster boxes now sometime soon. And I know that like the things can exponentiate and they can grow, but Pokemon is only like a few $1 billion. So the whole saying of like the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. If someone ever made, and this is something that I think ties into another point that we talked about earlier, if and when an instrument was ever made that you could short something, I think there's a lot of people out there that when Destined Rivals came out, they would have shorted Destined Rivals at 250. They would have shorted Destined Rivals at 300. People would have bankrupted themselves. I thought that Destined would go down at 250. I thought that it would go down at 300. One thing you will never catch me doing in a speculative market such as this, if the ability was ever made to short anything, I would run so far away. I would not touch any of those instruments. I don't touch options in like traditional markets either. But yeah, on where I was going with it originally, Pokemon, like we could be so early, you cannot comprehend it. We're seeing more of it now. We're seeing more 6-figure Pokemon cards. We're seeing more 5-figure Pokemon cards every day the last few months. But look at sports cards. Look at the amount of packs that you open up, and there's like $10,000, $100,000, $1 million rookie cards and all these different things. Pokemon could really get there. Pokemon could get to where base set first edition Charizard and PSA 10, multiple millions. A lot of your WotC PSA 10, your Gold Star PSA 10 Grails, millions of dollars, like dozens of them, hundreds of different examples. There are very high bullish cases. And again, like Evolving Skies, 5 years, Destined Rivals, 5-10 years. These could be $5, $10, $15, $20,000 boxes, the same way a lot of these older sets are. If and when Pokemon grows to the extent to where they're printing 20, 30, 40 billion cards a year, which they very may well be headed towards with that new million square feet. And yeah, it's crazy, the potential upside, but just be aware and be mindful of the downside while you seek out that those astronomical gains that could be there as well.
You bring up a lot of sports cards being worth, potentially into the millions of dollars, whereas in Pokemon, I mean, the Logan Paul auction, what'd the base set go for? 900 and something thousand?
That was a weird one because like one sold not too long after that for 500 and something, right? That was the Logan Paul Golden Premium from that block. But yeah, the Illustrator, not only was the Illustrator the most expensive Pokemon card of all time, it actually surpassed all the sports cards. It surpassed the triple logo man, Jordan Bryant, whatever, that Mr. Wonderful and that Shine guy bought for their sports card fund. So that could just be the beginning of like a multi-year run on like just a lot of people piling in. And some of these pops on these older cards especially are double digit, some of them are single digit, some of them are very low triple digit. And yeah, I don't have a lot of money in slabs. I'm generally short plastic, but simultaneously I don't agree with it really. I think the market's kind of lost its mind on the valuation of these third-party opinions, especially given all the drama, all the history, all the skeletons in their closet with each respective company. But yeah, I realized that like there could be a lot of money moving into those things.
I guess I was trying to set up a question here. And I did it poorly, but a lot of these sports cards that are worth a lot of money, they're sometimes serialized cards, even some of the newer ones, whether it's 1 of 1, 1 of 5. With Pokemon printing more cards seemingly every year, some of these pops getting up to 20, 30, 40,000. I think we could both agree that's obviously affecting how much these cards could actually grow in terms of dollar amount, right? Do you ever see a world where Pokemon decides to add in serialized cards?
I won't say the G word. I will never say 100%, but I think there's a 99% chance on a long enough timeline serialized comes. So the way that I look at it, sports cards in the 90s, they did their thing and they printed a ton of them. They almost printed themselves to death. Serialization saves sports cards. Look at what serialization is doing for Magic the Gathering. Look at what serialization is doing for One Piece right now. Serialization is a tried and true, proven thing. It works. And actually, Pokemon is not entirely out of it. Right over my shoulder here, I have a 1 of 5,000 Master Ball that they produced and they sold through the Pokemon Center. That's performed quite well. Nothing like Destined Rivals and Evolving Skies and other things that you could have bought. Well, not Destined Rivals, but nothing like other things you could have bought at the time in cardboard. But they've made the Bear Walker skateboards. Actually, like the TCG card, it's just like a blank card size thing that says 1 of 250 or 1 of 100 or whatever they are. So they've introduced some collectible serialized things. And if and when Pokemon ever go, boxes are available at distro again, boxes are available on Pokemon Center again, which I think is a certainty on a long enough time frame. If and when they ever want to fire things up again, they have the blueprints. The blueprints are right there for the taking. They look at other markets. They know what's happening with One Piece. They know what's happening with Magic. They know what the One Ring sold for. If you ask higher ups at Pokemon, and they'll go there if and when needed. They might even like, hey, we're not booming enough. Let's just throw some out there. I don't see them doing it anytime soon. That you don't mess up a good thing. You just keep this train going as long as it can, as it is. But if and when needed, they will absolutely go there, in my opinion. What about you? Too. Do you think it's kind of an inevitability on a long enough time frame?
My gut instinct tells me that if the game gets to a point where they feel like they want it to boom a little bit harder, right? Or like you said, maybe there's a lull, they'll introduce them. And I think it's the same thing. You mentioned One Piece. They haven't put serialized cards in packs yet, but they do the, promos or whatever out of 1,000, out of 600. Bandai has actually done serialized cards in booster boxes in other games. So like Union Arena, they've done it, which makes me believe that even a game like One Piece eventually could get serialized cards in the game. And I love them too. Like, I'm definitely a fan of serialized cards. I think it's great, you know, that you can say you own like 1 of 5 in the world or 1 of 10. It's something unique and cool.
One thing I love about serialized cards, just to put a bow on the serialized conversation, I mentioned before that I've collected trophy Pikachu cards. I mentioned that I recently rebought some of them. Extra copies, to some extent, have always been a thing in the space. Everyone years ago, they saw the Fusion Strike thing. Somebody stole from the printers, all these different hits and all these different worries and all these different conversations. The thing I love about serialization is it's like they're held to a standard. If and when there's ever a 1 of 100 Charizard and there's 2 number 3s, they've got some explaining to do. Someone's in trouble. Like that is problematic. With Moonbreons, with Gray Felt hats, with all these different things, you just don't know how many are out there. And I like that they're being firmly held to a number. Another thing that does, my science background, my engineering brain, say that Evolving Skies had a 1 of 100 Moonbreon. One thing that you could do, it won't be perfect because of clumping, because of whatever else. But if there were 50 publicly known pulled Moonbreons out of 100, that gives you some idea towards what percent of the product has been ripped, right? If we had publicly seen graded or posted on Instagram or Reddit or Facebook or wherever, or YouTube, if we saw that 83 of the 100 out of 100 Moonbreons were pulled, we could have reasonable idea that at least 83% of the product was opened. One thing that drives a lot of us data guys kind of mad is like, well, we know the print run 12 billion cards in a year, divide that by the sets, take away some for Japanese. You can kind of back your way in to how many Moonbreons maybe were printed. But one thing I've never seen anybody make, like, I've done my best on it. I've seen other people do their best on it. But what percent of 151 was opened? What percent of Evolving was opened? With serialized cards, you kind of get an eye into that to some extent. So, and will Pokemon do it in the base product? Will they do a collector's booster box? Kind of, I think they would go that route if they ever do it or when they ever do it. But we'll see. Maybe it'll be a Topps product. Who knows? So many different options.
By the way, to show your stuff too, because I think you showed it in a video once. You had, I believe it was an Excel sheet, right? Where you could change the numbers just looking at certain sets to see like if 80% of product had been opened based on pull rate, pop report. Is that in the Patreon or?
So I did like a light version of that for YouTube. And then I did the whole like, hey, if you guys want to see the full version, if you want to go and get the spreadsheet yourself, that's within the Patreon. So somewhere, I think I titled it, I did a few videos on like Moonbreon math. I think if you look on my channel for Moonbreon math, I think you'll find the spreadsheet. And then if you want to get access to the whole thing, that's behind the $10 a month Patreon paywall.
I think it's worth it just to pay $10 to go through that, right? Like that's, you know, whenever someone asks me why I invest in sealed products, I point them towards your videos because I think you've probably done the best job on like looking at theoretically how much product's been opened, how much is left. And it drives me kind of crazy too when you see people on the other side of the conversation who are maybe anti-investor, you know, anti-scalper. And I understand the anti-scalper part, but everyone just says people are hoarding this. It's all in their closets, basements. Everyone, their mom has product. But if you look at the numbers that you've done, other people have done, it doesn't really add up, right? If people are coming at it from that perspective.
Where'd the 20,000 Moonbreons come from that are PSA 10 and then CGC and then BGS and so on? And it's like pull rates vary on that card between 1 in 1,000 and 1 in 2,000. So it's like 20,000 graded. You open somewhere between 20 million and 40 million packs. That's 200 million to 400 million cards. And like start extrapolating out and do it with different sets and go to your LGS, go to a local show. There are tons of Moonbreons not graded. I would wager that more Moonbreons are not graded than are graded. So it's like you got to take that number and you got to at least double it. Maybe you have to triple it depending on what ratio are graded versus ungraded. And there's so much propagation of error. There's so much like guessing and layered, like propagation of error across your estimations. But it's still a fun exercise. And it's always been for the past 12 years. XY era, it's going to perform poorly. It's printed so much more than Black and White. Sun and Moon is printed so much more than XY. Sword and Shield is printed so much more than. That's always been the thing. At some point, I think that Pokemon will hit here's a print run, and then we kind of go to a new like lower normal for some amount of time, and maybe it goes up again, but it'll settle at some point. But in my 12 years, we've had a couple year over year where it went down a little bit. Last year, actually, it was like 10% lower than the year prior. But we're still drastically growing generally. The tailwind for the past 12 years has been, yeah.
We'll get to this question too. By the way, how are we doing on time? We've been going for about an hour. I don't know when you have to get out of here.
I've got no bedtime. I've got no curfew. I'm, I run my live streams where I take every single question, which I know is easier to do on a smaller channel. But I know you're West Coast, so like I will stay here as long as you'll have me.
Alrighty, sounds good. Well, we'll take this one. What do you think about Anon's thoughts about Perfect Order is better than Destined Rivals? Which I don't think that's exactly what he said, but we'll get into it. That we should sell the booster boxes of Destined Rivals. Did you see Anon's video?
I did. And one thing that I caution a lot too is I don't think this is what Anon said, really. And like Anon had an idea in his mind, and then he elaborated on that idea. He shared it with the world. We're all individuals with our own minds, with our own experiences. And if that video gets 5,000 views, you're going to have 2,000 different opinions of what he even said. And the way that I heard it is he's selling some of his Destined Rivals to buy some Perfect Order. And he said why he's doing it. I don't have a whole lot of Destined Rivals to sell. And one thing I like that he's data driven. I like that he's putting his thoughts out there. You can't really win putting your thoughts out there, because if and when you're wrong, people will say something about it. If and when you're right, that was 3 months ago. Nobody cares. Nobody knows. We're on to the next thing, right? So I give props to anybody who comes up with a thesis. Here's my supporting reasons as to why, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is. So props to him. I listened to everything on 2X. So I listened to the video, but I can't remember all the intimate details. And did he tell people like, hey, go out and sell it all today? I guarantee it's going to perform better. Like, I don't think that happened at all. Did he say that he's doing it and why? And can you elaborate? Like, you listen to it too. Like, maybe set the stage more on what was actually said, because I don't even know.
Well, like you, I also listen to a lot of stuff on 2X, but
yeah,
the understanding I got from the video, Anon, and I'll give some props to Anon after this too. I think he was saying more, and he's been very outspoken. Booster box reprints are coming end of Q1. I know people are starting to meme on that. There's still 2 weeks left, so you never know, right? Yeah. But he sold Surging back in, was it November, December of 2024 or early 2025? Like, his whole thesis behind that was, he was going to take those funds and kind of, roll it over a few times, right? And he did very well with that. My understanding from the videos, he's kind of thinking about doing a similar thing with Destin potentially, like these boxes, and it almost makes sense to me, right? Like, these are boxes that are $520. It's one of the most popular sets Pokemon's released in the past 5 years. We haven't got booster box reprints. He's saying that these reprints are coming too. So if he genuinely believes that's the case, it probably makes sense what he's doing. So, again, I'm kind of like Dan. I won't hate on anyone who just comes up with a plan and they stick to it, right? Like, you're either going to be wrong or right, but at least you're executing on what you believe is going to be, a plus EV outcome for you. So I think that's what he was saying.
And generally speaking, like, I don't like either. I don't like a brand new box that's 0 days old at $250. I think it's closer to $200 on eBay. And I don't love a 10-month-old box at $500. So it's like, me, honestly, I would generally skip both, and I would buy more Sword and Shield. I would buy more early SV. But again, like, at the end of the day, if what we're doing is investing, and the only thing we care about is future compound annual growth rate, I don't think my money is best spent in either of these. But if I had to pick one or the other, Dan, you have to put 10K tomorrow into Destined or Perfect Order. If it's on a 10-year time frame, I would probably lean Destined heavily. If it's on a 1-year time frame, a 6-month time frame, I think Perfect Order could. But like, how strongly do I hold that? And it's not that deep at the end of the day. He's one guy. He's pretty well ingrained. He has way better access to distro than I do, way higher level. But yeah, again, hear what he says. Don't blindly follow it. Don't treat it as gospel, but let it wash over you, and let it kind of help assist in determining your own personal choice, is what I always say.
I mean, speaking of Sword and Shield, it's a good way to transition to this one. I mean, what are your thoughts on Sword and Shield taking off again? It's been stagnant for too long.
And what's too long? Like a month or 2 months? Or like
Exactly. You know, it hasn't doubled in 3 months, so something's not working here.
I would be like, and this is something that is, I'm gonna lose so many people when I say this, but like, if Destined Rivals goes up 50% in the next 4 years between now and the end of my pallets, I'll be thrilled at the entire duration of, like, the pallets have already achieved double the return that I thought they would over 5 years. They've already done that in less than 2 years. So I'm on just like free rolling, basically everything. I wouldn't be shocked if in the next 6 months they were to take a 30% jump. I wouldn't be overly shocked if in the next 6 months they were to lose 10, 20% relative to other things. It like I most of my stuff is set back for the longer term, and I don't think about it day to day. If and when I get some on my plate, if and when somebody hits my email with here's 50 grand of Sword and Shield, they're selling to me at 85%. I'll look at the charts, I'll give it more thought. But like day to day, I'm not looking at, and I know your channel, like more people are more frequently looking at all the charts and up and down and left and right. And like, I don't do a whole lot of that. If and when it's sitting on my plate and I need to determine what to do with it, I'll take a peek. But I'm pretty tapped out. Like if you quiz me on 10 different items and price points, and I'm not even going to be able to tell you.
I'll say too, seeing your numbers from your rip and ship was really eye-opening to me, especially something like Crown Zenith. You know, we talked about how many packs you ripped in January, February of last year versus December of the 2025. And we talked about Alex, you know, making his video about Scarlet and Violet potentially outperforming Sword and Shield. I'm not going to say I'm on the fence. You know, I don't want to copy your catchphrase, but I see how some Sword and Shield stuff will probably do better than some Scarlet and Violet era stuff. But I also think a lot of the SV era is going to start outperforming Sword and Shield. And my guess is when I look at a lot of the operations like yours and Alex's ripping packs, a lot of the mid-tier stuff's not getting open that much, which does make me a bit worried. Like I understand there's more to it than just packs being opened in live streams, but the mid-tier stuff like Chilling Reign, Silver, Astral, I'm starting to be less bullish on that than I am on something like Prismatic or Ascended Heroes, or these sets that it's seemingly you guys can't get enough of, right? You're constantly having to buy more of those sets.
Yeah. It's hard to, like, if in 5 years, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, if you do a lineup from like every set from Sword Shield base until Destined Rivals, if you do a ranking of like the best return to the worst return, if I had to pick one way or the other, if I was forced to, I think Sword Shield on average will return better. But I'm not holding that too tightly. I have a decent amount of both every day, depending on what comes in. I'm setting back a little bit more of both here and there. But again, that's what makes it all fun. And I don't really sweat it that much. I think a lot of people try to like overly analyze and hyper optimize, and for things that you just can't know. For a long time, Flashfire was the best set in the XY era, and that was the way it was, and that for so long. And then Phantom Forces, just years later, like that ended up surpassing, and demand can be very fickle. And it can, a couple PokeRev videos or a Deep Pocket Monster, should I open it or should I keep it sealed? The right videos happening, and things can turn on a dime demand-wise very, very quickly.
When you got into this space in 2014, did you say that you were getting some Phantom Forces from distro?
That was the first set. So I bought it's funny, Potomac Distribution. It's still a website today. It has distribution in the name, so I thought it was a distributor. I remember buying a case of Phantom Forces. It was one of my first buys, $600 for 6 boxes of Phantom Forces in a sealed case, and I ripped the whole thing. And then a couple months later, or a couple weeks, I don't remember the exact time frame, but I got into E4 and I went down a bunch of rabbit holes. Back then it was called UPCCC. But I found that list. There's a website, there's a list on Pokemon.com that shows you Mad Allen, GTS, and Southern, and Alliance, and like all the actual distros. I found out about that, and then in 2014, I applied with my 2 distros that I still have today. But yeah, at the time that I got distro, I think Phantom Forces was still there a little bit. 80 bucks a box, 82.50 a box was my standard pricing back then. And
Wow.
most sets you could have had all you wanted. And back when I got in 2014, Phantom Forces, Primal Clash, Roaring Skies, those were like the newest sets. You could buy black and white arrow boxes. You could buy Heart Gold, Soul Silver blisters that were several years old at that point. It's crazy how far we've come.
I asked Brian this when I had him on a live stream a couple months ago. Because he had made a video last year about, I think Journey Together had just come out or something like that. And he basically said I'm going to misquote him. So apologies, Brian, if you're watching this. He said something along the lines of people right now with distribution access, they're putting in massive pre-orders because they know they're only going to get a fraction of what they order. And I asked him, does he still believe that's kind of going to be the downfall of the Pokemon boom, is eventually once Pokemon can catch up to distribution and people get their full allocations and have to take it? Do you kind of see it the same way, where that's probably the most likely possibility that we get back to kind of a normal market per se, quote unquote?
I think there will definitely be some set, and I think it's like a meme, some like Dragon Ascension. I think is like it's not a leaked name; it's just a completely fabricated name. Sounds like an awesome set. I'm all for Dragon Ascension, but he talks about this theoretical set. Like I think he said ME7, ME8, somewhere out in the distance. I think it will likely end that way too. I think at some point, and the way that everyone's relationship with distro, every distro is a little bit different. I don't even get to put in a number. If I did, would I put in a big number? I would put in a big number that's like probably more than I actually want, but I would always put in a number that I'm physically capable of like delivering on. I'm physically capable of, well, if they hit me with these 50 cases, 100, whatever the number was, I would take them all. But the way that it works for me is like, hey Dan, you're getting this much perfect order. Take it or leave it. Yes, obviously, give me all of it. But yeah, someday there will be people declining distro allocations. Someday there will be product on the shelf. Like, and I've heard other people say this too, whether it was Brian or Alex or whoever. I listened to too many people, I can't remember. But do you think Walmart multi like tons of trillion or billions of dollars worth of sales and all that stuff, they don't make money when the shelves are empty? Surely the process of them becoming empty, like yes, products hit them, they sell instantly, but Walmart doesn't love that they just have that whole cart aisle with nothing on the shelves. They want people to go in and they want people to find product and buy it and make them their margin on it. It will come around again someday. I don't know when. I don't know what will be the game changer that makes it happen. Will it be the 1 million square feet of print capacity coming online? Will it be a global event? Will it be some recession, broader markets? I mean, crypto fell 50%, and Pokemon's like, who the hell cares? There's been all the talk over the past years if and how correlated crypto and Pokemon are, and to some extent, it's like, yeah, loosely correlated. Sometimes here Bitcoin boomed and here Pokemon boomed with it, but yeah, they just divorced recently because Bitcoin tanked 50%, 40%, whatever it is, and Pokemon's out here doubling again every other week, depending on what segment of the market you're looking at.
Alrighty. I had found a question, but we'll put this filler in here for a second while I'm looking for it. Are we booming?
Yes, Quilly, we are booming. It cannot be it cannot be properly stated the extent to which we're booming. I think a lot of people don't comprehend what's going on. It is unprecedented times in so many ways.
By the way, Manny, I see this. This might be a setting that I have to change, so I'll look at that after stream too, because maybe I gotta flip something on for the gifted memberships there. I will do that.
Ray gifted 20, so maybe he's talking to people in the chat. I think there's a way for people to like,
okay, gotcha.
Yeah, if people individually don't have it enabled, someone could gift 500 things and they might not get one, even though there's not that many in here, right?
Gotcha.
But yeah.
I think this is a good question too, because in this space, I feel like you have very dialed in numbers. And I know you probably even say yourself there's things that you don't track perfectly, but compared to most people, I think it's pretty well done. So this is definitely for you.
Yeah, how do you manage so many different revenue streams accurately and efficiently? Um, I'm just out here doing my best. My full-time job. So like I'm not facilitating any final deal. I'm not answering eBay messages. I'm not packing orders to the end consumer. So all of what I do is I construct my buy lists and I make sure the streamers are stocked for their streams, and I buy raw cards to grade in mass. And it's uh it's a lot of moving parts, but I'm very big on planning things out. I'm a calendar guy. I actually have on my desk, like I have a post-it note with like these are the tasks that you do every Monday and every Tuesday and every Wednesday, and the days that I pay the consigners, the days that I send shipments to PSA and PGS and CGC. And I just have a pretty well dialed in routine, and I have great people around me too. Like I'm not, so I'm the main engine on the sourcing side, but I'm not the main engine on any of the selling sides. I've created great relationships with my 1099 independent contractors who run the streams for me. I've created great relationships with all the platforms. I've created great relationships with some of the grading card companies. And I definitely have great systems around me in place. And I guess I pull some of the strings on that. But at this point, it, I probably portray something that's more clean and efficient looking than it actually is, to be honest too. If I panned my camera down around me, the mess, all like this is very curated. I look like I have things more in line than I actually do. That's a portion of it as well.
I think it's a bit humble, but we'll accept that answer. Steve asked too. This is gonna be another question for you for sure. Based on rip and ship pack destruction, how many more cards 2x, 5x, 10x would Pokemon need to print to get S tier or A tier sets on shelves like 2022 to 2024?
This one's a really, really good question. And one thing, like first, I'll say I don't know. Obviously, I've seen people theorize a certain multiple, and I've seen people say that like 5 times more wouldn't be enough, and they say that with like a high level of confidence. I think that if Pokemon had printed double, so say last year instead of 11 million, it was or billion, it was 22 billion. Say the year prior instead of 12 billion, it was 24 billion. I think double would do it, honestly. A lot of people would push back on that, but one thing I'll say, some people hate hearing it, but it is the truth. When the prices are high, people want it more. When the prices are high, artificial demand seeps in. My biggest, I hate saying it, it's just a reality of the market we live in. My biggest sole supplier in 2025, 2026 was scalpers. It was scalpers, it was botters, it was people cooking Walmart drops and Costco drops and Pokemon Center drops, and uh, all that artificial demand, all that artificial tying up the product in the middle, that all instantly fades away once the product goes below 110% of MSRP, right? Because if it's below MSRP, like they can't buy it and make any money. Even if it's slightly above MSRP, no one's gonna spend 160 plus tax on Pokemon Center when the market of the box is 180, right? Like with tax, you're already there. If you're in Oregon, if you're in Delaware, if you're in one of the sales tax free states, you can't sell it on eBay, TCG Player. So a lot of that artificial demand from people who came from sneakers or came from whatever, they came from Labubus, they went into One Piece, they went in wherever they went. A lot of that just wouldn't be there. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Like, I truly think 2x kind of cracks that, because once you get to a certain number, the demand ironically goes down, and it kind of like it is a self-solving thing.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I mean, I feel like 5x would be way too much. And I think you're right. Like 2x is close. Like maybe 2x would do it. Maybe it's 3x. You're talking about like, when price comes down, ironically, it drops demand. I remember looking at prismatic ETBs in the summer, and that's when they were 80, $90, whatever. The Sam's Club drops were coming, Costco. there was over 100 ETBs selling buy it now on eBay North America every day.
Mm.
So if they got to like, and again, like, what do you mean by on the shelves in 2022 to 2024? Like, I feel like there's quite a difference in how people would envision what that looks like. But if they were $60 ETBs, would that number jump to 200, right? Instead of 100? Like, I don't know. So I think 2x is probably like a pretty good guess. And I think for me, it would be max 3x. And I think even that would be like pushing it.
And very quickly, the thing that scares me most about the current market that we're in, if and when I'm right, if and when Destined and Prismatic and Journey and some of these other sets, if and when the packs go back to MSRP, I'm gonna do it too. You're gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Alex is gonna do it. Rudy's gonna do it. We will talk about the market having crashed. In my opinion, to call a 10-month-old set becoming available at its intended price, calling that a crash is intellectually dishonest. I'm gonna do it. It'll get clicks. It'll get views. It'll get all that stuff. But it's scary to me how many people I've talked to that they know it can't do that. And again, I know it's different, and I'm ripping packs and whatnot, and eBay and Fanatics, they're so much more ingrained in all the mystery packs and the PokeRev packs and yada. I know the bow cases. But one thing I'll say, 5 years ago, people guaranteed Vivid Voltage wouldn't go under 200. Not only did Vivid go under 200, it went under 100. And it stayed there for years. It was all available. And you know what? After a few years of most every set being widely available under 100, you know what I did? I looked around and it's like, oh, investing is dead and this and that. And I started investing by the pallet. In that first video that I made in May of 2024, not even 2 years ago, the general sentiment around Dan is selling his dad Pokemon investments to hold for the long term. Like, the top is in, Beanie Babies 2.0, everyone sell everything. Like, it's all over. It's all done. It is so funny how quickly the tide can turn. And I know, like, I've seen a couple of people pumping the brakes more. We've talked about James already. We've talked about Alex already. I see people kind of pumping the brakes lately in a couple of their videos. One thing I said in Alex's video, I think it was earlier today, or maybe it was Friday. The longer the lunacy goes on, the longer these sets being instantly double MSRP, being so much, the harder the fall will be. The fall is inevitable. And again, to call it a fall is so like off base, in my opinion. The stuff's supposed to be 150 a box. 30 years of Pokemon, 27 of the 30 years, 28 of the 30 years. MSRP is a horrific price. You don't want to pay MSRP like that. No one pays MSRP for anything, historically speaking. MSRP was 140. I was getting distro at 82.50. P Football Pete was selling them for 85 bucks shipped on eBay, 90 bucks shipped on eBay. Historically speaking, and I know people do it with, like, if you bought every Sword and Shield, if you bought every Scarlet Violet, and what would it be worth today? If you bought every box ever, going back to base set, you would have bought every single box. EX Team Rocket Returns, Evolving Skies. You would have bought Crystal Guardians. You would have bought Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Triumphant, Call Legends. You would have bought every set for not MSRP. You wouldn't have paid that on any of them. You would have paid 100, 90, 80 on most of these boxes. 160 is not the goal. It is a terrible price, historically speaking. Will people kind of get away with it to an extent? Will some people maybe find the sets where it's kind of the exception that proves the rule? I think so, probably. More and more each passing day. I think I'm going to be wrong. I think I'm going to be wrong on at least a set here or there. But long term, my targets are not MSRP. I still get distro for $100 a box. Perfect Order, I'm paying $100.60 a box. Destined Rivals, I paid $100.60 a box. They're not going to let me get away with that much longer if this lunacy continues. So I'm not trying to, like, oh, hey, everybody, nobody buy, and we'll all wait, and we'll all pile in at the I'm not like calling for that. I'm just saying what I'm doing and why, as I always do.
I think a good way to, put a bow on this question too, because I think you did the numbers right about the new printing facility. If I remember correctly, you were the only person who looked for their current printing square footage and compared like how much more this would be.
And how
Would
no one looks at that? Like, why does no one look for that? That feels like a logical place to go.
In terms of how big this facility is going to be, though, and relating that to how much they have now, would it be a double? Would it be more than a double?
I looked around. I looked around North Carolina area. I looked around like all the places that pinged from Millennium Print Group. It felt reasonable that it could be a doubling. And I know, oh, it's going to be boxes. It's going to be XYZ. It's going to be this and that. And Millennium does print non-Pokemon things. I don't know exactly what they print otherwise. I know PBM prints Magic and Lorcana. And I don't know where like One Piece is printed. I don't know where
Japan.
everything is printed. Oh, that's all in Japan. Okay. I guess that's why it's graded so easy. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's like this is one thing that I come back to oftentimes. All this theorizing, all this speculating, all the math on the print runs and how many Moonbreons and how much evolving was open. It's all very fun. But at the end of the day, it's like it's a lot of guesswork, and I don't really know. What do I know though? I know that we are booming as we speak. I know that if I spend 50 hours hyper optimizing where to put my 10 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, I'm going to be mostly guessing. I'm going to be like maybe eking out a percent here, percent there. Sometimes I'm going to guess wrong and lose returns. But I know if I instead put that 50 hours of time, instead of hyper analyzing, should it be more in destined or perfect order? If I just go buy more at 85%, and then go sell more at 95% and then do it again and again. That's where I put my energy. I put my energy where I have knowledge, where I have experience, where I have control, where I have confidence. Like, is Destined Rivals going to go down 10% before it reprints? It goes down 30% and it doubles and I don't know. Nobody knows. A lot of people exude a lot of confidence on the subject and they have no clue on. But do I think that I can go out and spend 100 grand next week and sell it for 110 grand? Hell yeah. And am I going to go do that? Hell yeah. I'll come and I'll talk a couple hours a week on YouTube and I'll take all the questions. I'll answer them. But know what you know and know what you don't know. And don't get too overconfident because that's where people make big boo-boos, historically speaking.
Are you able to talk just briefly about when you started out in this hobby, kind of how you were sourcing back then versus how you're mainly doing it now? And what, for people watching who kind of want to do something similar, want to start a business, what was like the one or two things that you learned that really changed how you view the space and gave you an edge over a lot of other people?
Yeah, so back in the day, 2014, I've always been an eBay guy. I have an eBay account that's over 20 years old. I sold coins and beer steins and video games and all different kinds of stuff over the years. So when I got in my bread and butter, what was like I didn't really have a name. I didn't really have a brand. I was just a guy out there, and I had an eBay account with a sales tax exemption, and so I went and I bought lots on eBay. I bought lots on Heritage a few years later, Golden and Fanatics, PWCC back then. But I bought on Craigslist. I bought on that was pre like Facebook Marketplace days, or at least it not being as ubiquitous as it is today. So I kind of bought like in all the avenues that anyone has access to. I had no advantages. I had no name, no brand. And yeah, I'd buy a collection for $5,000 and I'd piece it out. I'd grade the ones that were gradable and I'd sell the ones raw, TCG Player, eBay, wherever. I'd kind of optimize like, and I'd make my 10, 15, 20% margin. The graded cards, maybe I'd make more. You win some, you lose some. Sometimes I'd grade cards and they'd grade lower than I thought and I'd lose money. But all the different things like that. These days, I've built a name. I've built a following to some extent. I've built a brand, and I buy more through directly from people that follow me on Instagram, people that follow me on YouTube. I definitely have access to like more sourcing that is just like, it's the wrong word, but it kind of makes sense. Like passive. I have more just like passive sourcing. That's what my YouTube channel is. That's what my Instagram channel is. That's what the name, the brand, the face that I've built over the past 12 years. So since I have those, I lean into them. One of the most common questions that I get is like, Dan, I see what you do, and so much of it is built around. I built it around that because I have that. Lean into your strengths. Is it a requirement to put your name and your face out there and be on YouTube? No. There are so many people, so many of my biggest consigners, so many of my biggest people that sell into me every week, every other week, every month, whatever. You wouldn't know them. like no Instagram, no big following. They've got a YouTube. They might type in a couple live chats here and there. They might be in a couple Patreons, a couple Discords, but there's a lot of people hustling in the shadows, doing really well. And to kind of pump my own channel a little bit, I made a video today. It came out today that kind of talked about like all the different avenues that you can do business in Pokemon. And next Monday, I'm going to do a video. If I were starting over, it was kind of like a two-parter. And if you couldn't tell from the hour and a half that we've started tonight, thanks, Grayson, for listening to me rant on and on and on. I can go on for a long time. Today's video was like 45 minutes. Next Monday's video will probably be 45 minutes. I'm going to give you a 6-month blueprint. If I started over today, what exactly would I do my first week? What would I do my first month? What would I do month 2, month 3, month 4? The answer, like TLDW, if you don't watch my video Monday, everything. I've live streamed, I've vended, I've bought from vendors at shows, I've bought from LGSs. Like, I guess I've never had an LGS. That's one of the few things I've never done. But I've done everything. Find out what you enjoy, find out what you're good at, and find out what makes you money. Lean into those things. And that's what I've done over the past 12 years. I've tried it all. I've failed at some, I've succeeded at some. And what you see today is the culmination of tens of thousands of hours of blood, sweat, and tears, and capital, and risk, and all that stuff built into the most efficient version that I could figure out how to operate today.
By the way, guys, we'll chill it. I know Dan won't chill it, but you guys should go sub to his channel. It's linked in the top of the video description. The goal is 10K this year, right, Dan? For subs?
Yep. Yeah.
What are you at now? Like 9K?
I'm a big goal setter. So I'm at like, I looked before we went live. SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-based. By the end of the year, I want to have 10K subs. It's actually, I set the goal before I was like kind of in an uptick in this Pokemon boom. I'm gaining 200 subs a month. I'm only a little over 1,000 away. I should have it in like 5 months. It's probably too like, it's not ambitious enough of a goal. But my historical, I've been on YouTube 5 years and I have 9K subs. My historical rate is like 100 subs a month. So that I would fall just short of it. If I regress to my mean, I would fall just short of it. So hopefully I can do the 10K by the end of the year.
Yeah, guys, make sure you go sub. I mean,
Appreciate
based on
that.
where the market is, you'll get there. Also, too, I mean, you only upload once a week, right?
Yep. Yeah. So right now
if you wanted to, you could just spam videos and then, you know.
I know. I've had many different posting schedules over my 5 years, but I'm very big about being consistent and very big about doing something like attainable. And YouTube directly pays me very, very little. I only make a few $100 a month from like affiliate links and ads on YouTube and stuff, but the indirect is there. So I'll make 5 videos a week. I just post them as a 45-minute video. If I was a better YouTuber, I would chop it up, 5 parts, 9-minute videos each, optimized for the algorithm. I just don't edit. I don't do that stuff.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I get it. Overhauling asks, what are the benefits of business credit cards and in which situations do they work best?
Yeah. So 12 years ago, I used credit cards for 90% of my purchases. If you're buying from eBay, if you're buying, well, Fanatics charges a fee. Heritage Golden, they charge a fee. A lot of places do charge a fee for using a credit card. Distro charges a fee for using credit card. But if you're primarily buying on eBay, if you're buying PayPal goods and services anyways, have a good rewards credit card. It does multiple things at once. It gives you a 2%, 3% discount on what you're buying anyways. So if you buy a $100 collection, a $100 item, you're paying $98. You're paying $97, PayPal, MasterCard. So that's great. Simultaneously, cash flow wise, it's depending on your statement date. If your statement closes on the 30th and you buy an item on the 2nd, you have 28 days until your statement closes and that balance becomes due. That $100 that you bought, you carried it 28 days interest free. And now once the statement gets billed and comes, you have like 3 more weeks to pay the statement. So you're getting basically a free 45, 50-day loan. I need to pump the brakes some. I need to say, like, make sure you have the money to pay it off and be careful spending other people's money. If you don't pay the statement balance in full, you're going to owe 30% interest on that purchase. I don't advocate for carrying balances on credit cards, but paying off the statement balance in full it chargeback risks if and when you're ever scammed. You're able to like lower your risk, you're able to lower your cost, and you're able to aid your cash flow. It's a win-win-win on all fronts. But at the stage that I'm in, all my deals are paid through Zelle or ACH or friends and family, or like they need to be paid cash functionally. I would need to pay a fee to use a credit card. So my spending has gone up like astronomically, but most of the best deals happen with like actual cash.
Lads in here as well. Question for Dan. Are you surprised with the run up of the older Japanese Pokemon cards?
PSA 10 Japanese common Pikachu is like a $5,000 card. Like millions of that card were printed in the Japanese based starter decks, in the Japanese based booster boxes. I actually have I bought a box. I bought an open Japanese base set box a few months ago for like 30 grand. And these are the light packs. They almost all graded PSA 9. Light packs are like $1,500 now. Because if you open these, as long as you get a good centering one, if your box has bad centering, it's dark because they'll all get 9s or 9s OC or whatever. But if you get a clean box, I've opened a lot of Japanese product over the years, the base set starter decks, the base set packs, all of it. They are so easy to 10. And like common cards are hundreds of dollars. Pikachu is $5,000. Some of the like it is actually plus EV as long as it's like it's a clean pack that was stored well and it's a centered pack. It's plus EV to open so many of these old Japanese decks, so many of these old Japanese packs, and something has to give. Either and it most likely usually it's both. Either the sealed has to go up significantly, or the graded has to go down significantly, or they both could go down. Like the graded could go down a lot and this could go down a little bit. Last time this happened in 2021, English more so than Japanese. I was opening 2-player starter sets. You could buy a 2-player starter set for a few $100. It had 4 Charmanders in it, 4 base set unlimited Charmanders. I was grading for $75 a piece on Express, base set unlimited Charmanders. And they were grading PSA 10, and I was selling them for $300, $400, $500. It's insane. I will never tell people what to buy, what to sell. The prices could double from here. PSA 10, for all I know, PSA 10 Japanese Pikachu could go to 10 grand. But that's one of the cards. I don't know where the top will be, but I'm almost certain the bottom of that card will be 50% or more from the top. It wouldn't surprise me if that card drops more than 80%, 90%. It happened last boom. It's going to happen again with the worst offenders.
DC's in here too. Dan and Grayson, excellent. What's up, homies? Thank you for stopping by, DC. I'm trying to line up the questions because I know there's still like a lot to get through and stuff, but we've been going for like an hour 37, so we'll try and hit as many as we can before we get out of here, guys. This is a question from Austin. Dan, is the palette strategy just buy a few booster box cases of each set and set/forget, or are you being specific about which cases go on the palettes?
So as I mentioned, I get distro. I have a rule that like every set I'm putting 4 cases back minimum. And if you go on my channel and you search palette, you'll see like I did a May 2024 was the origin. And then I think I did a 6-month update, a 1-year update, and then the 2-year update is coming in a couple months. But I talk through, like I spend an hour plus talking through all the rules, all the methodology, and it's a variance of a lot of different factors. I value higher, especially look out in what's going on in the space right now. Journey Together cases being like relabeled as Evolving Skies, and I value higher my like distro product that I get directly. That's why I set the 4 cases back immediately. Certain sets I've had some different thesis. Like with Journey Together, I actually set back a little bit more because there were 2 variants, right? There was the enhanced one and the non-enhanced one. So yeah, I'm not gonna like re-go through an hour of what's already been out there. But generally speaking, I index. I have a little bit of all of it. If and when I get an opportunity, if and when I like certain things a little bit more, I will go heavier on that certain thing for sure.
We talked about this pre-stream potentially coming up. Dan, when are you going to start pumping Metazoo?
It's with all the booming going on, it's a little dark. It's a little dark out here right now. But yeah, I do have to disclose. So I am one of a few people who bought Metazoo from bankruptcy. I am an owner of the company Meta2, but we license the printing of the trading card game over to GameCubator Labs. I have no insider knowledge, no knowledge of the print runs or anything. I don't have any involvement in the day to day. But what I do is I buy the product. I buy it and I rip it and I sell singles on eBay. I have a guy in Idaho actually, Skya, shout out to him. He does all my fulfillment on eBay for Metazoo. But all that said, like I don't pump Pokemon. I talk about what I'm doing in Pokemon and why, and I talk about why I'm bullish on it. And I don't have the potential bias and the potential legal concerns, whatever, of like being a part owner, right? I don't have any involvement, no ownership in Pokemon. So the answer, that's my long answer. My short answer is never. I'm never going to pump anything. I guess the closest thing I get to pumping is the S&P 500 with my buckets. But no, you'll never catch me pumping it. I talk about it periodically. Every few months, I'll make a video updating the latest set and the pull rates and all those different things. Because in Pokemon, look anywhere and you'll find all the data. You'll find a million videos. In Metazoo, like there's not that many people doing mass openings. There's not that many people showing what hits they got from 10,000 booster packs. So I'm making kind of like novel, unique content for the space. I'm enjoying my engagement with it. But as with everything, highly speculative and not performing that well as of right now.
Nate's in here too. Question: Wifey wants to know if they'd make a set around Pokopia.
Pokopia? Yeah, that would be fun. That would be cool. No idea. I've always wanted to. I've wanted them to make sets more themed around like a crystal version. Give me all of Johto, all of Kanto in one set. Give me like a yellow version theme set. Give me like a Super Smash Brothers set. That's not all Pokemon. That's all different Nintendo. But yeah, no clue. As with everything else, but it'd be a blast if they did.
By the way, that's something Bandai does very well with One Piece. Is their sets definitely have a theme and they try and stick to it. I agree. Like I would love this. I mean, 151 in general was just such a good set. I don't know how they couldn't look at that and go, we should probably do this with Gen 2 or Gen 3, right? So hopefully it's something for the future.
And looping back to like what Pokemon has in their back pocket, if and when things get dark, they have so many things in their back pocket, so many aces in the hole that would just make us lose our minds. Before serializing a card, they could just do instead of just reprinting another base Charizard, reprint another base Charizard with a full art, like the Pikachu they did in Celebrations. Do the Johto version of 151. Bring back Poncho Pikachus. Do some more like Gray Felt Hat, Munch promos. Like there's so many things that they can do. And some people push back on the whole serialized argument. Oh, Pokemon's never going to go serialized because they could do X and Y and Z. And maybe that's the way they go. Maybe we just boom straight for the next 50 years and they never even have to go for it. Like that could happen. I mean, it's such a small market that we could be that early.
I did want to highlight this too from Zuko, because I think this is kind of like a good kind of counterpoint to what you're saying about Walmart wanting there to be, items in stores for people to walk in and see. If someone has this perspective, what would you say to them?
I'm not like a tech guy whatsoever. I don't know how hard it would be. I don't know if there are like other products out there on the market that have successfully gotten around all this scalping, botting and stuff. But I know I know a little bit as far as like you go into a Walmart and you've got all the aisles and you've got the end caps and they value their dollars per square foot. They look at metrics every year on how many total locations they have and how many dollars per square foot each one generates. And if they have 100 square foot section that is just always empty, that it like at some point on a long enough timeline, it feels like they'd almost just only carry it online. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's like they're setting a price and people are paying it. So I understand, like I kind of agree, if that makes sense, with what's said here. Like at the end of the day, they're getting the revenue, especially when it's online. That's not even hitting the footprint of like a brick and mortar store. So yeah, it feels like the tools would be out there to combat it better if they cared more. Same goes for Pokemon Center, frankly. Like anytime they do an antibotting measure, I think ironically it hurts real people more than it hurts the bots. I play RuneScape, and the same goes in RuneScape. They'll change some rule, they'll make something more complicated to stave off the bots, and it just makes the real players' lives harder. And then the bots they code for another hour, and then boop, the bots have figured their way around it. It's frustrating.
By the way, what do you think about Jagex raising membership prices?
I mean, being in the Pokemon space, it's super cheap relative to everything in this space. So it's like an extra 30%, $15 a month. Like that's half of a grading submission. That's half of a singular graded card cost with PSA.
I saw like the Reddit posts and stuff, and I think that's mainly just people always wanting to complain that go on Reddit anyways. But yeah, no, OSRS, man, good game.
And depending on how much you play, like if you figure out the hourly, with this boom, I have a yearly membership. I've not played hardly at all. My hourly cost is like relatively high. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's BUY or BYE. They're a business. They're gonna set the price, and you can choose to not, if enough people chose to not pay it, they would reevaluate. They would have to figure something out. But yeah, ultimately, I think most people are gonna choose to pay it. They've done the math, they made the forecast. They're gonna lose 5% of members, and they're gonna get 30% more revenue from those 5% less, 10% less, whatever the number is. Capitalism. That's just what it is.
Yep. Hector's in here as well with a question. Which modern Pokemon set do you think people are hoarding the most sealed, and how will that affect its price in 5 to 10 years? Also, what's y'all's biggest buy regret? That's a good question.
That is. It's tough because I think some of the most hoarded sets are also some of the most ripped sets. I always characterize it as the unstoppable force, the unprecedented print runs, the massive amounts of product they're printing, and then that's the immovable object, and the unstoppable force is the unprecedented print runs. Or no, it's the I'm mixing up what I'm saying here. Is the unprecedented ripping, 180,000 packs last year on live streams. I'm missing the number right now. What was my number for Prismatic? Was it 25,000 packs of Prismatic last year we ripped? So I think it would be a set like Prismatic. I think there's a lot of them set back, but simultaneously there's a lot of them being ripped. Place your bets. I don't know which one's going to win out, the investors or the rippers. And I'm short term, very short term. I'm relatively on the fence on what it's going to do. I think it could go down more before it goes up. I haven't built the position that I want to have long term in Prismatic, but I think it's going to perform very well over 10 years because of that attrition, because of all that demand, all that ripping. So yeah, I think it's your 151s, your Prismatics, but it's offset by those are being ripped disproportionately as well. And then I guess if you want to go ahead with that, and then we'll take the second part.
No, I agree with you. Like I think what most people are hoarding is probably 151 Prismatic. I mean, maybe Destined at this point. I would say Crown Zenith, but I think a lot of Crown Zenith was opened over the past year, and people started selling out of that. But maybe there's still like a lot of Sea and Sky. I can't think of any more sets too. Those are the obvious ones. I guess in terms of my biggest buy regrets, it has to be 151. I was one of those people that, I was going to wait for cheaper prices, and I just didn't buy all the ETBs when I could have. So I'd say that for sure.
Yeah, I guess if we're allowed to go that way with it's not buying more of a thing like 151. I bought a lot, but I had the means to buy a lot more. I believed in the set long term. I just thought I had more time. I want to say, if my memory serves me, I want to say in January of 2025, I was paying $9 a pack. And I want to say in like July, I was paying $9 a pack. And I thought that was going to last for months more. I want, like, in hindsight, I would go back and I would buy another 10, 20,000 packs of it. It's all obvious in hindsight though. So that bullish thing to say. I wish my regret is not having bought more. And generally speaking, over the past 12 years, I've regretted my cautiousness in not having bought more than actually buying any one thing, right?
I think Prismatic I could throw in there too as a more recent example. Because I have a lot of Prismatic, 100 ETBs or so, but I probably could have bought double that last summer. And now that they're $200, I don't feel as great about them. So yeah, could throw that in there as well. I think it's just like, go ahead. Sorry. I was just going to say, like, I don't even know where I was going with this. I feel like any set that's really good that I really like now, I need to just be ready to buy double what I think I would be happy with. Just double down on it.
Yeah. With like Prismatic, obviously the ETBs have separated drastically from the packs. I run the live stream operations. It's one of the most ripped packs. It was the most ripped pack in 2025, and I think it's gonna be ripped for a while. So the lowest I ever bought packs was like $675 a pack, and I'm buying packs at like $825 to $850 right now. So that's 20% higher. That's reasonably higher, but it all depends on the avenue that you're in, and I like context always matters. It is what, like, everyone's finances are different, everyone's situations are different, everyone's outlets are different. But to me, like, the lifeblood of the streams is just loose packs. I do have some ETB cases set back, but yeah, hindsight relative to a lot of the things that I've done in the interim, I don't really regret not having bought. Well, I guess depending on the time frame you take it over. $100 Prismatic ETBs, absolutely. Not so much. 120, 130. I definitely sold some $1,300, $1,400 ETB cases about a year ago, and I'm glad I did, because I've flipped that money over multiple times and done more than just double it.
I feel like you got to split the argument too, from like a business perspective and an investing perspective.
Yeah.
Because if it was always about making the most money, I agree with you and Brian and everyone else, where it's like, you shouldn't be investing. You should just be churning that money week over week. So it depends on your goals. I did see another question here. We're actually very close to getting caught up on chat, which is impressive. I know someone left a comment saying this was like one-sided. We weren't taking enough questions. I apologize, guys. You know, Dan was cooking with some responses, so I just wanted to let him run with it. Not trying to blame him at all. You know, it's one of those very difficult balances, I feel, when you're doing
I can definitely rant.
Teeth Rocket Joey, the GOAT, TRJ's in here. If you had only 1 year to buy and sell, which Sword and Shield booster box would you invest in today?
These hypotheticals are hard, because like I can't even tell you the price of every individual box. I would maybe go towards like a silver or a brilliant. I would have to look at what the prices actually are. Maybe like a brilliant. I feel like it's got a Charizard. It's got some good cards. It feels like that one didn't get quite as much love as some of the other ones did. What are your thoughts on that one?
I think I'd go evolving. If I only had 1 year, I'd just pick the best and hope for the best. That's basically it. I agree though. Like the theoreticals, you know, it's you're kind of in fantasy land. Like don't put too much weight into our responses, guys. It's just it's for the fun of it.
Yeah.
We'll skip to Steve's super chat too, and then we have a couple more questions, and then I think we'll wrap up and get out of here. What is early pack destruction on Ascended Heroes versus Prismatic versus 151?
So I've only been streaming since October of 2024. So unfortunately, I don't have data that goes all the way back to 151's release, unfortunately. But one thing, I actually presented it in Grayson's. You don't do it through Patreon, right? I don't know exactly what you do it through. I don't know what to call it.
Discord is probably the best way of putting it.
So through Grayson's Discord, I did a little presentation, and I did a similar presentation in my own Patreon. But I call it like the hype decay of a certain set. Like anytime there's the meme when a new set comes out, it's the best set of all time. That's just the way that it goes. Like the week that Perfect Order drops, even though it's more a mid set, people aren't as hyped for Zygarde and whatever else. It will be on release day our single best selling set. Release day, it will outsell 151, Crown, Prismatic, everything. That's just the way that it goes, right? The first week, it will outsell Prismatic. It will outsell everything else. The better sets will outsell all other sets for like weeks and even potentially months until the next newest set comes out. The worst sets, think like your Journey Togethers, they'll more outsell all the other sets for like a week, 2 weeks, and then you'll go back to Destined is number one, Prismatic's number one. So all my ranting there, I didn't get it quite pulled up yet, but I do have some data for Prismatic and Ascended. So Ascended, we ripped, and this is some of the data that I presented in Grayson's Discord. Oh man, where did I put it? Actually, I put it in that presentation.
It's a really good presentation, by the way. Yeah, no, I was just going to say too, and this is interesting. This is something where like, I'd be curious. We're going to have you back probably at the end of this year too, or early next year, because my developing thesis, I haven't really talked to anyone about this yet. I think there would be a very strong correlation between kind of like your hype decay and how you view that, and just like sales on eBay, right? For the booster boxes and, you know, other ancillary products, booster bundles. I'll say now, because I just did the Scarlet and Violet Era booster box update today, Destined Rivals booster boxes, they're still selling about 5 per day. Buy it now, eBay North America, which is good. Like you compare that to Brilliant, Silver, Chilling, some of these Sword and Shield sets, still basically double what they are doing on a weekly basis. But I would say 2 months ago, 3 months ago, Destined, granted, was a little bit cheaper of a box, but there were weeks where it was between like 15 and 17 per day. And I'm just talking about loose boxes. Like if you add in cases, that number gets a lot larger, obviously. Yeah. But even Destined at this point is starting to slow down based on what I'm seeing. So I would be curious, looking at like your guys' numbers in terms of rip and ship. Is Destined starting to slow down now too over the past couple months?
Yeah, it definitely is. And unfortunately, I did pull up the presentation. I remember that my first set that I started with for the hype decay metric was Journey Together. Actually, I didn't have perfect data going all the way back to Prismatic, and then unfortunately, like as a good scientist, as a good guy with all the data and all the disclaimers, Ascended Heroes, if people remember, I'm sure they do. It was so dark at release. We actually sold out. In our 16 months running the live streams, we've not sold out of hardly anything. We pride ourselves in keeping everything in stock all the time. Come in, whatever you want to rip, we've got it. Ascended Heroes was so dark at release. They had 2 SKUs, the 2-pack and the 3-pack, and they pushed the one a month later, whatever, 3 weeks later. So I put an asterisk. We sold 2,650 packs of Ascended in 7 days, but I put an asterisk by it because we would have sold more. We were sold out. And if you want to compare that to like a Destined, we sold 6,855 packs of Destined in our first 7 days. Journey, we only sold 1,700 packs. So Destined, we sold almost 4x what we sold of Journey. Then White Flare and Black Bolt, those ones, again, you got to kind of have an asterisk because most sets release on their own. Destined got a fair shot. It was the best set of all time alone. White Flare and Black Bolt, they had to share the crown, right? They both released on the same day. They were both the best set of all time. They had to share the limelight. They had to share the spotlight. So Black Bolt and White Flare were kind of in the Journey territory, but again, making the adjustment for like 2 releasing at once. And it's all like fun. It's all interesting. The data is all interesting to track. But once you contextualize it all, once you realize like all the error that it's prone to, I don't know how much it means at the end of the day, to be quite honest. And again, demand being as fickle as it is, sentiment, demand, all that stuff can just change on a dime and throw a lot of these numbers out the window, in my opinion, at least.
I'll say too, when I track sales data on eBay, I normally don't start until like 90 days after a set's been released, just because it's the only way I can do it on eBay is manually scraping. And there's just way too much at release to do on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis. I think on the 21st though of March, so in a couple days, if I have enough time, I'm going to try and see if I can go back over the past 30 days on eBay and just check how many Ascended boxes actually sold. Because I would be
Mhm.
curious what that number is for the first month. Because
Yeah.
again, like the craziest 7-day periods that we had for Prismatic, at least on eBay, it was like 100 ETBs per day selling.
It, and again, to be fair, like my sciency brain, my disclaimers and context, it's kind of unfair in a way, because Ascended, when it was brand new, ETBs weren't there.
Hmm.
So with Prismatic, day one you had ETBs, and if you look at the first 30 days, not only is it the first 30 days of the ETB, it's the first 30 days of the set. Hype is dialed up to 11. With Ascended, to be fair, to give it context, to make the comparison, it's not apples to apples, because your hype was kind of fleshed out mostly that first 3 weeks. All you had were 2-pack and 3-pack blisters. So the first thing I would point to is like, you're not comparing apples to apples. It's the best we have, though. I think the comparison is worth something, but like, you need to be careful what kind of takeaways you take from it, because you need to realize that it's not entirely fair, not entirely accurate. And
Agreed, for sure.
some people say, Dan, way too many disclaimers, but like, get off the fence, make a take. But that's just who I inherently am, and I think it's the best thing and the worst thing about me. I will think about things in probabilities, and I oftentimes I can't just pick a singular thing. But in the real world, I live in a place where like, I don't have to pick one thing. I pick a little bit of everything. So I talk the same way I walk. Like, my palettes aren't just all prismatic ETBs, right? They're a little bit of everything. And I kind of talk the same way in probabilities.
So April 18th of last year was the first time that I looked at Prismatic. So that would have been 3 months after release, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, but that's three again, like that would be 3 months after release of Prismatic. Whereas if I look three
You have
months
to either
after
go
the
three
release,
months or four
like,
months. It's muddied
yeah,
a little bit.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But to give everyone context, that first week, because that 100 number was like actually in the summer when the ETBs were cheaper. April 18th last year, TCG player price $133 for a prismatic ETB. And there was about 30 of those selling by it now every single day. So I'll probably look at it maybe, what would that be? March, April, May, and then maybe June. Maybe I'll do a video once both of those days, and then we'll just see what the ascended numbers look like. But my
Yeah,
guess would
and
be
there it's
it's
like,
going to be high.
you could pick either one that would be reasonable. You could go to the midpoint, like anything you do. I'm just always like, I always like to give all the context. That's why my 8-minute videos turn into 28-minute videos, and it's not as algorithm friendly.
No, but it's good. I mean, it's entertaining, right? Like, you
It's the way my
need,
mind works, so I
yeah,
put it all out there. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely fair. We had another super chat come in during this too, so we'll take this. Chief Pokemon, I guess I should say. Can you explain the Fanatics consignment program?
Oh man, I like this. He's paying you for me to pump my wares. If you're fine with it, I can throw a couple things up on the screen.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, there's two ways. So I'm just gonna do it
There
right
we
in
go.
here.
Perfect.
So this is like already graded stuff. If you have already graded stuff, these rates above 120, they are better than if you were to send to Fanatics yourself. So the way Fanatics works, anyone can send their slabs to Fanatics, and Fanatics will sell them on your behalf. I have a dealer account with them, basically. I have better rates, and I pass along the better rates to you. I keep a small cut for that. I give you additional visibility through the Catch 'em All Collectibles filter on Fanatics every week. So that one's there. And then the other one that's there, I have to go to this other camera quick. But the other one, I actually have, this is my one that I think people kind of have been using more lately. So if you send raw cards for $8.50 a card, your cards can be CGC graded and then auctioned. The turnaround time is currently like a month. So in a month, your cards will be graded. They'll be auctioned. The way it works too, as I speak, I'm currently fronting $45,000 worth of grading fees. I pay the grading fee up front. And then when your card sells, I recoup my $8.50 grading fee and I pay you the proceeds of your sale. So those are the two main methods that you can consign through me, either already graded slabs or raw cards, CGC graded and then auctioned. So yeah, there's a couple options there, and I think they're both quite solid, but obviously a biased person running the service myself.
By the way, I think we just FOMO left a comment. I missed this ad. Guys, that wasn't planned at all. Absolutely not. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? If you're gonna do it anyways, you may as well go through Dan, save a little bit of money, right? It's kind of one of those win-win situations that obviously benefits everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Couple more questions here. Do you think Pokemon would do a crossover with Magic? My gut would say no, but never say never.
My gut would say no. It would be like Coke doing a collab with Pepsi in my mind. It's like two of the biggest titans in the space, and it would feel strange.
Mm-hmm.
So I lean heavily no.
To be fair, though, I love the old Pepsi and Coke commercials where I can't remember exactly who did it first, but it was like, was it Coke wearing a Pepsi cloak or whatever? And you could kind of see under it. It was the other can. And it was like all, I can't remember exactly what it was.
Commercials. Did they actually,
they was a commercial or an ad? I can't remember. And then there's the one where like the kid was putting he was taking cans out of the machine so he could step on them to get up to the click the button for the other one. I'll try and find those and throw them in a video one day. Old commercials, man, you can't beat them. A lot of creativity.
I googled it quickly, and I see like the Pepsi versus Cola wars. So yeah, it would just. I mean, Magic is bringing in SpongeBob, and they're bringing in all these different things. Never say never, as you said.
Do you think investing in sets like Team Up or Cosmic are still a good opportunity, or just stay with the new sets like Fusion Strike or Brilliant Stars?
So again, 2 years ago when I made my palette video, I said that I generally don't go back. And then what did I do in the years since? I went back a bunch, but I have not gone so far back as Sun and Moon. When I look at a $10,000 box like Team Up, and I could be wrong. This could be faulty logic, but I attribute a certain percentage. What are the odds of evolving going to $5,000? What are the odds of Team Up going to $20,000 over some certain time frame? And I just, my mind has an easier time. I think someday, long enough timeline, Team Up will be $20,000, it'll be $30,000. But I can wrap my head around 200 going to 400 before 10,000 goes to 20,000. That said, though, certain time frames, there are absolutely sets that were $2,000 that way outperformed $500 boxes. They went to 10,000 before the 500 went to 2,500, depending on the set, depending on the time.
Yeah, I kind of apply the same logic to even the really new stuff from Scarlet and Violet Air and Mega as to why like I might be a little bit more bullish on some of the new stuff. But you got to remember too, like Dan said, a lot of it just depends on what the set is. So for example, I think Evolving will double before Team Up will based on current prices. But there's probably an argument that you could make that, I don't know, like a Prismatic ETB doubles before an Evolving booster box. Right. So, and that's probably not a good comparison. Maybe you say Surging Sparks booster boxes double before Evolving at this point. Right. I'm not saying that's going to be the case, but there's that you always have to kind of weigh. But I think a lot of the Sun and Moon stuff at this point it's so expensive. It probably just doesn't make sense for the average person.
Yeah.
Question. Will you do an updated tier list of modern sets anytime soon? I'm assuming they're asking me because I don't think you have ever done this. I'll probably do it sometime. I like making those videos. They're fun. You always get a lot of interesting feedback on them, but they tend to be popular. So why not?
I think I've done one or two over the past 5 years, but yeah, definitely not my bread and butter.
You want to know how you get to 10K subs? You do one of these, you do it in Tier Master with all the boxes. You put buy it, like just go look at my top video. I've probably spammed it like 10 times at this point. With a buy and sell, everybody loves watching those. Easy.
Yeah, I definitely know that there are a lot of strategies outside of what I do that would be way more successful at building like the sub number. But going back to like the whole goal thing, sub number is just a portion of it. But definitely trying to more curate a more business minded following, people that will consign with me, that will buy and sell with me, all that stuff. Um, so yeah, definitely consciously choosing the antiviral route.
Yeah. That's honestly probably the better way to go about it anyways. Um, Chief asks again too, do you accept Japanese cards for CGC consignment?
I answered him in chat. But yeah, anything CGC grades. So anything standard size that CGC grades does apply for the 850 a card. I have people doing One Piece and crushing. I have people doing. I've sent some Metazoo there, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Lorcana, sports cards actually. Anything standard size that they grade.
And then I think this is a good question to end on. Did you guys ever regret not buying more?
Yeah, I can say the corny, cheesy thing. I love where I am today and no regrets, all that stuff. But generally speaking, historically, I have bought too little and I've sold too soon. So what I'm kind of doing to like course correct, consciously making the decision, avoiding price memory, all that stuff we talked about earlier, I'm forcing myself to diamond hand. I'm in the middle of a 5-year, 6-year experiment where I am palletizing product and I'm transporting it 5-6 years into the future to see what it does. So yeah, yes, and I'm working on fixing it the best I can.
It's for 2030, right?
Yep.
The pallets? Okay. And do you do an updated video every year for that?
At the minimum, it'll be every year. I talking with my dad recently a little bit. He'll probably be here alongside me for another live stream around his second birthday because that was fun. I did that May of 2025. He came and we did a live stream together.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I wish I bought more too. You know, it's a
Yep.
very superficial answer, but you know, and it's very easy to say you wish you bought more when everything has went up 10x right over the past couple of years. So I think we'll call it
Yep.
there. Dan, thanks for coming on, man. And
Yeah.
everyone in the chat, if you guys don't sub to Dan, I don't know what you're doing. Click the link top of the description. Catch them all collectibles on YouTube. And this was fun, man. We'll have to do it again sometime in the future.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me, and thanks chat. Thanks chat for being here. Have a great night.
All right, guys. Everyone stay safe. Catch you all in the next one. We're out.